We've all seen the movies. The heroic cowboy stares down the troublesome outlaw in the middle of the town square, both itching to draw their guns. At the stroke of high noon, each man draws and fires, with the outlaw missing and the cowboy getting a clean, accurate kill shot. We'd like to think that this was an everyday occurrence in the Wild West, but Hollywood does have a penchant for expanding the truth. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Real History Of, an episodic web series here on YouTube where I take a look at the various figures and events that inspired the settings of popular video games. I'm your host Christopher, the video game historian, and on this episode, I'm going to take a look back at Red Dead Revolver and the real history of the Wild West gunfights. With the release of Red Dead Redemption 2 fast approaching and the trailer being released just a few weeks ago, I wanted to go back to the beginning and take a look at what gunfights were actually like in the Wild West of North America. We often depict the Old West by what we see in movies, TV shows, and even video games, thinking that was a time of lawless outlaws and every heroic cowboy had a fast draw that could hit their target from 75 feet away or more with a simple shot from the hip. In reality, the gunfights were not as sensationalized as we've come to believe, and you can thank dime novels of the 19th century for that. Despite being known as the Wild West, the real Wild West was a lot tamer and a lot calmer than how it's typically depicted. As new towns were being established across the western plains of the US, and more people were traveling out there, these new towns needed something to draw in new residents. Typically, as towns began to emerge, they would help draw people in with the promises of safety and security, and typically had even stricter gun control than we do today. Not every townsman or pioneer going out west had a gun on them, and if they did, it was for personal protection or hunting. Unless one was looking for trouble, guns were not brought into every establishment, and even upon entering the town, one had to check any firearms with the local sheriff. If one was carrying a pistol with them on their person, it would typically be somewhere easily accessible and not on a low-hanging holster. Pockets, inside their waistband, or in leather holsters on their belts would be the easiest and most accessible places a cowboy would keep their gun. When shootouts occurred, which they did, they played out nothing like we imagined they did from the spaghetti westerns and TV shows. Two men didn't go out into the town square at high noon itching to draw their pistols to kill the other. It didn't happen like that. Even if someone was known as a quick draw like Billy the Kid, Doc Holliday, or Bill Hickok, this was too risky for them to participate in, and for very good reason. It was much easier just to shoot down your opponent at the most opportune time to do so, whether or not they were armed. It's much easier shooting someone in the back at a saloon than to go 75 feet hoping to draw the gun and pull the trigger faster than the other guy. When shootouts eventually did happen, they were frantic, unorganized, with both men emptying their chambers at their opponents as they both scrambled for cover. Easy shots that would otherwise hit were misses, and oftentimes innocent bystanders got injured. These shootouts were never planned and typically started in the heat of the moment when emotions were running high and oftentimes with the help of liquid courage. The OK Corral shootout, one of the most famous shootouts in American history between Doc Holliday and the Earp brothers on one side and the McLaurys and Clantons on the other, had only lasted roughly 30 seconds, with 30 bullets being fired within that time. The only duel that would be close to what we'd see in the Hollywood films, at least that I know of, is the Wild Bill Hickok and David Tutt's duel, which only happened as the two men ran into each other, had an exchange of words, and within a second or two, it was all over. Tuts had drawn his weapon and missed his shot, but Hickok did not. A short, simple gunfight, but one that sparked what we think of today as your typical Wild West gunfight. The Hickok-Tuts duel will be exaggerated by Harper's Magazine a few years later, and sensationalized gunfights of the West began to capture readers' attentions in dime novels. While stories of the Wild West are often exaggerated or sensationalized, it's done so for the entertainment of the audiences. I'd rather watch an exciting action sequence in a movie with Clint Eastwood, or play wildly over-the-top missions in a video game about the Wild West and be entertained, than to have to avoid confrontation whenever possible, just like in real life. With Red Dead Redemption 2 dropping next year, I can't wait to get back into some good old-fashioned Wild West rampaging antics. Let me know if you too plan on buying it so we can get a posse going online and wreak havoc. That's all for this week's episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and if so, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and leave your thoughts or your excitement for Red Dead Redemption 2 down below. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and until next time, I'll see you out on the prairie.